So Zorayda is very accomplished. She's a Wallingford resident who has dedicated her career to the healing and therapeutic aspects of yoga and meditation. She is a licensed occupational therapist, a registered yoga teacher with over 500 hours of training in the disciples of yin yoga, therapeutic yoga, mindful yoga, and self-awakening yoga. I know some of her students are here, so I'm sure you know her quite well. She has trained at Harvard Medical School in their programs on lifestyle medicine and on meditation for everyday living and peak performance. She is a pranasaj, I did not pronounce that properly, practitioner, and is experienced with practice of I-Rest Yoga Nidra. Zorayda has been a guest lecturer at Sacred Heart University and has previously led lectures both at the Wallingford Library, Wallingford Parks and Recreation, and other Connecticut and New York locations. In summary, Zorayda seeks to apply her knowledge of various disciplines combined with the latest medical research to guide her students, patients, and attendees on ways in which yoga practice, wellness, and meditation can improve both the body and mind. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Zorayda. Welcome.
Thank you, Lily, and thank you everybody who is taking time of your precious day during the summer to come and to be with us and to learn a little bit more about mindfulness and meditation. So we're going to start right away, and I want to state that I'm not specifically trained in any particular type of meditation and mindfulness, but I have been studying with different schools of practice of mindfulness and meditation. So the presentation is kind of a compilation of different schools. So we start with what is mindfulness, and mindfulness means paying attention to what is happening in the present moment. What's happening in your mind, what's happening in your body, what's happening in the environment around you, and doing so with an attitude of curiosity and kindness in a non-judgmental way. So mindfulness aims to bring a greater awareness to our thinking patterns. So bringing awareness of the way we are constantly thinking, bringing awareness to our feeling patterns, how we usually process emotions, and our behavior patterns. And so mindfulness aims to develop the capacity to manage thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with greater skill and greater compassion. So in turn, mindfulness practice is going to help us to expand our capacity to meet and respond to life challenges. It helps us to live with a greater sense of well-being and to have a greater mental clarity to take care of ourselves and to take care of others. It helps us to be more aware. It helps us to be less reactive, and it helps us to be less judgmental. So where does mindfulness come from? So it comes from contemplative practice in Asia. In the US, in the late 1970s, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, which is an American professor, he began teaching his mindfulness-based stress reduction course to patients at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. And in essence, his mindfulness-based stress reduction program has three core mindfulness practices. And one is sitting meditation. The second is body scanning. And the third one is mindful movement practices. So the sitting meditation, the eyes can be closed. The gaze can be resting a few feet in front of the person who's meditating, while the hands are on their lap, on their knees. And the attention is gently brought to rest on the sensations of the body. And so maybe the meditator is guided, or it guides itself to bring the awareness maybe on the sensation of the air passing through the rings of the nostrils, or maybe the person is focusing in the expansion and contraction of the belly. So it's finding kind of a focal point of a bodily sensation that it helps the person kind of keep the focus. And during this process, where we're trying to kind of keep our attention into that sensation, then thoughts begin to appear uninvitingly. And so as the thoughts, as you're trying to meditate, and as the thoughts continue, returning again and again, and we want to bring that awareness back into the physical sensation of whatever you have chosen. Let's say the sensation of the air on the rings of your nostrils as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And we encourage gently and with compassion, we encourage the mind not to get caught up in the thought process, but to observe that thoughts just come and thoughts go. And the development of curiosity and acceptance and compassion in this process of patiently bringing the mind back again and again is what differentiates mindfulness from simply attention training. And this practice of meditation can be done for a few moments as a breathing pause in the middle of a busy day, or it can be done for half an hour as a daily practice, in the morning, creating a ritual. So because I believe in experiential practices, I never really had thought that, sitting through a lecture and just absorbing information, that's what works for me. I like to incorporate some of these practices as we're going together. So we're going to start with that sitting meditation. So find a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you in this moment. And you can either close your eyes or have your gaze downward towards the ground, a few feet ahead of you. And just take a moment to notice the parts of your feet that are touching the ground. Notice the parts of your buttocks and legs that are supported by the chair. And if you are leaning back, noticing the part of your back that is resting on the back of your chair. And then begin to notice your breath as it is in this moment. Nothing to change, nothing to fix, just focusing on your breath in this moment. And begin to choose a place, a physical sensation of that breath where you want to keep your awareness on. So maybe it is in the sensation of the air as it enters your body through the rings of your nostrils on the inhale. And that sensation as the air leaves your body on the exhale. And if that is not working for you, maybe you choose focusing on that expansion of the belly on the inhale and that softening of the belly on the exhale. So choosing a place of sensation in your body where you feel your breath, and keeping your awareness and your attention in that place while breathing in and breathing out. And slowly opening your eyes, and then maybe noticing that you were trying to focus on that sensation of the breath in your body, and then a thought about, you know, the stove or dinner or whatever came up. And then you realize, oh, I'm thinking something. And then you try to come back to the breath and maybe stay with that sensation of the breath for a moment. And then the mind goes back and forth. So that's very normal. That's just typical. That's part of the process. So according to neurosciences, those new to meditation practices often put pressure on themselves to be successful and to get there. You want to get there to that point of meditation quickly. And this tendency to want to be a successful meditator, to empty your mind and to fully have focus, tends to be a left brain approach. And it's almost like, are we there yet? That kind of approach. And for simplicity of explanation, the left hemisphere is associated with analytical and rational and logical processing, whereas the right hemisphere is associated with as abstract thought, nonverbal awareness, and this visual and spatial perception and the expression and modulation of emotions. So in the Western world where we live, most individuals tend to navigate their everyday life in a fashion dominated by that left brain's thinking, but that constant thinking that is unconscious or conscious, which results in too much frantic stuff going on in your brain and not enough time spent on being. We spend a lot of time in our heads, and so we spend too much time thinking and not enough time being. And because new meditators tend to put that pressure on themselves, they usually take longer to kind of get the practice. So what the research suggests is that the key to beginning a meditation practice is to be kind to yourself, to acknowledge that thoughts are going to come and thoughts are going to go. And when we bring this sense of easiness and awareness that thoughts are going to come and go, that it's not your fault, that is just part of what the brain does, then this activates this attitude of knowing that this is what's going to happen and being okay with it. This activates certain pathways in the brain, which reduce that left brain activity and chatter. So we were talking about the 3 core things that are in that mindfulness-based stress reduction program for Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. So one was that sitting meditation that we practice. And the second thing is body scanning. And the body scanning is bringing a focus awareness to each part of the body in a sequential manner. And that body scanning involves paying attention to the sensations in the body. So bringing awareness to every single part of your body, noticing sensation, noticing if there are any aches or pains or tension or any physical discomfort. And a typical example of practices that use that body scanning is Yoga Nidra. Some of you may be familiar with Yoga Nidra, where the person who is practicing is guided to go through every single part of their body and bringing awareness of sensation. And so to experience what it is to have a body scanning practice, we're going to go into that. So again, find a comfortable seat. Close your eyes if that is okay with you. And if you prefer to have your eyes open, maybe direct a soft gaze on the floor ahead of you. Let your breathing slow down. And begin to notice your breath. Notice the gentle movement of the belly. Maybe feeling or letting your abdomen expand on the inhale and contract on the exhale with each breath. As thought as, a balloon is softly being inflated and deflated in your abdomen with each breath. And then bring an intention of paying attention to the parts of your body that are experiencing any body sensation. And the invitation here is to check in with your body in the same way that you will check with an old friend, with love and compassion, checking in what's going on, and bringing that focus awareness to each part of the body in a gradual sequence from feet to head. So begin observing the sensations on your feet. Can you feel the surface underneath your feet? And as you notice the sensation in your feet, notice if there are any place in your feet where you may feel discomfort or pain or tension, and acknowledge that. And acknowledge any thoughts or emotions that may accompany or be with that discomfort, if you feel discomfort. And then bringing a sense of love and compassion to that part of your feet that is suffering. And then notice sensation in your legs. And notice if there is any tension or pain or discomfort in your legs. And then notice any sensation in your pelvis. Any sensation in the lower back. Belly. Sensations in the upper back. Sensations in your chest. Hands, arms, shoulders. Sensation on your neck. Any sensations on your face, any tension, any discomfort. And then as you have had that body scan from your feet to your head and you have noticed any places where there was tension or discomfort, at the same time, notice the parts of your body where there is no discomfort, where there is no tension, where there is no pain. So notice if there is any place, any part of your feet that don't have tension or discomfort or pain. And any part of your legs where there is no discomfort. And noticing if there are any places in your pelvis where there is no discomfort. and on your belly and lower back, chest and upper back, hands and arms, shoulders. And as you do that body scanning, noticing at the same time if there are any places where there is no discomfort in your face, and knowing that at the same time we may have parts in our body that are feeling sensation of discomfort or pain, and bringing a sense of love and compassion for those parts of your body that may be suffering. And at the same time, noticing all the places in your physical body where there is no discomfort, where there is no pain, and bringing a sense of gratitude to that. And then noticing how you feel when you acknowledge that. The places of discomfort with love and compassion, and the places of comfort or absence of pain, and the sense of gratitude you bring to that. And slowly opening your eyes. And then you may begin to wonder what is the difference between mindfulness and meditation. So mindfulness training usually involves three key elements, and one is the formal practice exercises. They are very specific. They are meditation-based exercises that are designed to help you to structurally change the brain for the better, and it's taking advantage of this neuroplasticity of the brain. And a second part of, or a second element of mindfulness training is this informal or on-the-spot techniques. And typically this involves adding a mindful attention to things that you normally do, things that you do on an everyday basis, but without being in autopilot. And so you can mindfully walk, or you can mindfully eat, or any activity that you do on a daily basis. You can bring mindfulness to that. And these are naturally occurring opportunities to be mindful every day, all day. And by doing so, by bringing this sense of mindfulness to things that we do every day, we are strengthening your mindfulness muscles. So we are training the brain. And so how mindfulness look like in those daily basis? So imagine that you have a plate of food in front of you. You're about to have lunch. You know, and you, before beginning to eat, would you take a moment to pause, maybe to look at the plate, and maybe bringing a sense of gratitude for the fact that you have food in front of you to eat, bringing a sense of gratitude for maybe the people that grew the ingredients that went into that, the people who brought those ingredients to the grocery store, or the person who bought the groceries, if it wasn't you, or even you, thanking you for buying the groceries, for making the food, and having that sense of gratitude for having that food there. And do you have to do all these stages about thinking about it, everybody from the plant that was growing? No. But maybe bringing just for a second that sense of being mindful to what you're about to eat. And so that's how mindfulness look, and when you're eating, that's mindful eating. and maybe having a mindful walk. And so if you're having a walk in the woods, and taking the time to notice the trees around you, the sounds around you, can hear the birds, noticing maybe the smell of the leaves or the flowers, the smell of the environment around you, maybe noticing how you feel when you are in the woods having a walk. And so that's bringing that sense of mindfulness. How does it feel in your body to be walking in the woods? If you're enjoying that walk, how that feels. And so the difference between mindfulness and meditation is that mindfulness training includes some meditation-based exercises that are that you can apply to everyday life. That it doesn't have to be so to practice mindfulness. You don't have to be seated with your legs closed and your eyes closed and, trying to empty your mind. You can do mindfulness in everyday situations that you have and everyday activities that you have. Meditation, then you sit for it, you close your eyes, or keep them slightly open, and you focus on, let's say, your breath. And the sensation of the breath in your body. That's the difference. So we were talking about that third component of the mindfulness-based stress reduction program that John Kabat-Zinn, and what were those part of those core components. So we talk about the sitting meditation, the body scanning, and the third one is mindful movement. So these are movements that are made consciously, movements that you make with purpose, and where each movement is paired with the breath. So each movement is paired either with the inhale or the exhale. And some forms of yoga practice incorporate or are by themselves this mindful movement. So I have a yoga class that is the mindful yoga. And then in our mindful yoga, we always incorporate like a centering meditation. We always incorporate some movement that goes with the breath. And we incorporate at the end of the practice a moment of coming back into the body. Sometimes we do a little bit of body scanning, when we are either at the beginning or at the end of the class, and then bringing that awareness of how a movement feels in your body and what happens when you kind of coordinate that with the breath. So some forms of yoga, they are very specifically designed to enhance this mindfulness component of the practice. And if you think about in ancient times, yoga, the practice of yoga was a preparation of the physical body to practice meditation. So in the spirit of practicing as we're learning, we're going to take a moment to do a mindful movement practice. So you can stay seated for a moment and maybe bringing your hands to your heart center, and on the inhale, pressing the hands together. Then on the exhale, interlacing the fingers and pressing the hands away, tucking the chin into the chest, rounding your back. And inhaling, bringing the arms up towards the sky. And as you exhale, releasing the hands and bringing the hands behind you. On the inhale, sending the hands towards the ground, lifting the chest. On the exhale, bowing your head down, may the arms come up. On the inhale, we come up and maybe bring the arms up towards the sky. And on the exhale, maybe we bring the hands behind your head. On the inhale, gently pressing the head into your hand. On the exhale, releasing the hands and maybe coming to the side of the body. Inhaling, coming to center, and exhaling, going to the other side. And we inhale, bringing the hands into your shoulders. And on the exhale, we send one elbow back, one elbow forward. We look back into spinal twist. Inhale to center, and we switch the arms. And exhale. And that felt so good, we can do it again. So bring the hands together, pressing the hands, inhale. Interlace the fingers and press away into the exhale. Inhale, bring your arms up. Exhale, bring the arms down and back. Interlace the fingers behind you. Inhale and lift the chest. Exhale, bow your head down, maybe lifting the arms. Inhale, come up. Exhale, bringing your hands behind your head. Inhale, press your head into your hands gently and the hand into the head. And on the exhale, bring your arms to the side, having a stretch on the side of the body. Inhale to center. Exhale, going on to the other side. Feeling that stretch, noticing sensation in the body. Inhaling to center, hands on the shoulders, and as you exhale, sending one elbow forward, one back. Inhale to center, and exhale, send elbow to the opposite side back, feeling that spinal twist. And slowly coming to center, releasing your hands, maybe resting your hands on your lap and closing your eyes. And notice what you notice. Can you feel your heartbeat? Can you feel a pulse on your belly? And by the way, the answer is no, that's totally okay. Can you feel the expansion of the belly on the inhale and the softening of the belly on the exhale? Soften your jaw, maybe creating a little bit of a space between the lower teeth and the upper teeth. And gently open your eyes. And so here the question, so those were the three core components in Dr. Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness program. And then here we ask ourselves then, where do I start? How do I start developing a mindfulness practice? And so the first step is developing awareness. And the first and the second step kind of go together. So the first step is developing awareness or any automatic patterns of thinking and the way we react to stress. And the second part is learning to skillfully use tools to retrain the brain, to stop maladaptive behaviors and having or creating new habits. And so they are kind of going to go together. So developing awareness, one of the things that you may have noticed is something that if you were looking at this sheet of paper, and I would have asked you, what do you see? Most likely, most people will answer that they see a black dot. It doesn't matter how wide and big the space around that tiny dot is. Our brains have what we call a negativity bias, and it's written to focus on the negative. And another example is that maybe you are on a job and your boss is giving you a review, a performance review, and your boss tells you 15 things that you're doing great. And he tells you one little thing where there is room for improvement. And our minds go into that place. We begin to notice the negative. And that negativity bias is something that has served humankind well, because that it was important for the survival of the human species. And it's very ingrained in a part of the brain that is called the reptilian brain. So how, if this is something that we automatically go to, how we can get out of that, of this negativity bias of seeing the negative on everything? And it is not positivity. It is about something that Dr. Rick Hansen, which is a psychologist and a writer, and that he sort of has worked a lot, and is about hardwiring beneficial emotions, how we can hardwire happiness in the brain, how we can hardwire resilience. So in the same way that we have ingrained in that reptilian brain to go to that negativity bias, how can we come into a place where it's a more positive thinking? And he developed this sort of practice that is the embodiment of joy. So we're gonna go into that. And so close your eyes. You can keep them open. Take a moment to focus on your breath. And bring to mind a moment in your life where you were just absolutely filled with joy. It could be many years ago, it could be recently. And just imagine yourself exactly in that moment where you were so joyful, so happy. And you may notice, if you could transport yourself to that moment, noticing the sounds that were around, noticing what time of the day it was, how much light it was, what environment it was there. And so we bring that memory of that moment of joy, and we kind of recall that external environment that was there when we experienced that joy. And then notice where in your body you feel that sense of joy the most. Where in your body, if you were going to pinpoint a place where you feel that sense of joy, where it was. And it maybe is butterflies on your belly, or maybe with just this sense of expansion on your heart. So noticing where in your body that sense of full joy resides. And if joy would have a color, what color joy would be? And if joy would have a shape, what shape that would be? What size it would be? What texture it would be? And fully with your body, feeling that sense of joy. And if that sense of pure joy, you tend to feel it, let's say, as just a feeling on your belly. Feel that sense of joy getting stronger on your belly. And from your belly, feel that sense of joy is spreading through, from the belly up to the chest, all the way to your head, your arms, and from the belly down into that pelvic floor and pelvic cavity, and the legs and your toes. And imagine that you could feel that sense of joy with your entire body. How that would be. If your eyes were closed, slowly open your eyes. And so Dr. Hansen has done a lot of studies on how it feels to embody joy, to feel joy fully on your body. And it's not just joy, it's any beneficial emotion. So when something good happens, there is this common saying, I hope I don't screw it up, that is like when something goes well and you sort of are waiting for the shoe to drop. And it's almost we've kind of trained that feeling good, it's not normal, and we're just waiting for something bad to happen. And so it's about rewiring the brain to spend, if not as much time we spend on feeling the negative in the body, to feel the positive in the body. And by recalling those experiences, we can have moments of joy. And the invitation here is the next time that you're very happy or very joyful. Maybe you saw a puppy and you got the chance to hug it, and you love puppies and you feel great when you hold a puppy. Staying with it, noticing how it feels in your body and how you can embrace that feeling of being present in your body. And noticing these patterns of feelings. And so noticing if we tend to have these, to take everything personal and to create stories about what things that happen. And so just one typical example is that maybe you texted a friend and then your friend doesn't answer back to you. And then you begin to make a story in your head that how come, she doesn't answer back, who the hell does she think she is? And getting all this story in your head and maybe thinking, did I say something that it offended you, offended her, what happened? And then you create those story and you kind of add pieces to that story. And then you find out that she lost her phone, or that that it was out of battery and she was in a place where she didn't have a charger, and that was why it take X amount of time before she answers. So it's about how we just take things personally. And maybe it's about beginning to notice when something happens, when something pushes your buttons, noticing where that feeling of discomfort comes from, and maybe finding ways. We tend to focus very on the should. She should have called me, and maybe shifting that should, that requirement that we're putting on other people, and maybe shifting in a moment and saying, I would prefer if she texted me back. That would be great. Or if you notice yourself getting into these stories or into this kind of constant thinking, maybe able to, one technique that I use for me is to have this stop sign. And there is a lady at the top of the block, at the top of the hill where I live, that when the school kids are out, she's in charge of that corner, and she is, I don't know how old she is, but she looks maybe 75 plus years old. She's kind of petite and kind of a little bit hunched, but she holds that stop sign like she means business. And when the kids are coming, and they might be coming almost half a block away from the intersection, she immediately puts the hand, she immediately puts the stop sign, and she means business. And so one thing that I notice, especially when I have gone into periods of anxiety or I have a lot of stuff going on in my life, and then to have this constant thought. And I embracing that stop sign from that lady, and I'm saying, okay, stop for a moment. And thinking, is this a story that I'm telling myself? Is this real? Is this something that is benefiting me or harming me, whatever that thought I'm going on, and being able to stop and think. And sometimes when thoughts come and you are maybe thinking about that friend and said how ungrateful she is, to go back and I said, it's just a thought. It's just a thought. And taking a moment to become and bringing that awareness and finding ways where you can maybe incorporate these practices into your life. And there are, many more practices. Maybe, one of these is making this list of when you are under a situation, what are the things that I can control and what are the things that I cannot control. And one big issue these days is about wearing mask or not wearing mask. And depending on which side you are, it's like this sense of anguish that comes from, if you're a person who believes that everybody should be wearing a mask, how every person that doesn't have a mask triggers these feelings in you that kind of pushes your buttons. And can you stop for a moment, maybe putting that a stop sign and checking, is this something I can control? Can I control if somebody else is wearing the mask? Or is something that I cannot control? And if something that you cannot control, then seeing what is an alternative that you yourself can do and letting go of the fact that maybe somebody is not wearing a mask, whatever it is. And so bringing that sense of control or not control. And so we want to, I want to leave some time for questions. So I want to just come, in a closing, how important it is to learn how to work skillfully with how we react to stress, becoming aware of the patterns that we have of thinking or feeling or behaving, developing a capacity to notice and enjoy pleasant events in your life, embodiment of practice, an environment of joy, environment of things that are beneficial. And another part that I wish I had more time to go over is practicing, cultivating a sense of unconditional kindness towards yourself and to others. And Dr. Kristen Neff has a great body of work and research on self-compassion and how you can move from self-judgment to self-kindness, how you can move from a sense of isolation to a sense of common humanity, and from a sense of this over-identification with thoughts and feelings and emotions and behaviors, and moving more into a place of mindfulness. So I think at this point, we maybe want to open to questions and see if anybody has have some questions.
So you can write your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand. No questions? No questions?
Okay, no, and that's okay. If there are no questions, I have plenty more to say, and maybe just kind of coming back a little bit into what neuroscience says about mindfulness practice, and reiterating that it activates, mindfulness practice actually activates structural changes in the brain. And these seem to reflect improvements in attention and emotion regulation skills. A mindfulness practice can bring about a sense of calmness. It can minimize that constant brain chatter. And it helps us to shift towards more of a right brain mode. And this shifting to a right brain mode generates a cascade of, a cascade effect. So it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calm, rest, digest part of the nervous system. And the more the sympathetic activity is engaged, that means less stress, that means that we have better health. And the benefits of mindfulness appear to extend to relationships And so people who practice or engage in this mindfulness practice tend to respond more compassionate, tend to have more satisfying personal relationships.
We have a question.
Go ahead.
First off, everyone loves, all the comments are, I love this, thank you, thank you, thank you. But this program is, how does being in nature help our stress levels?
So it's walking in nature, and these have been tons of studies done in Japan, and you can Google this, forest bathing. And doctors in Japan actually, because it has been studied so deeply, they write prescriptions to their patients where the prescription says, an hour or forest bathing 3 times a week, meaning that you can go to the forest or to any place in nature, any park, any place where there are trees and maybe a creek or any places in nature. And the more you bring that awareness to being present as you are in nature, to with your senses, having that experience of being in nature. So smelling, the leaves, the smell that comes when you're in nature, the sound of the birds, all of these components that you can perceive with your senses, the more you take time to feel them in, the more that you are activating the parasympathetic system, that part of the nervous system that is about to calm, to rest, and to digest. And the more you shift into that, you create this cascade of calmness. So there is actually lots of studies done on that, and it can be a prescription for forest bathing. So I don't know if that answers that person's question.
Any other questions? Now's your time. Oh, yes, so I noticed this program has been recorded. Is there a way we can access and relive this hour? I'm going to be, I'm probably going to ask you for your recording. And we'll share it to the library's YouTube account.
So yes, people can access the recording. It takes a couple of days to transfer that from the Zoom to the different format, to the format that goes to YouTube. But then after that, you will be able to view it in the Wallingford Public Library website, and you can also view it in the Zorayda Yoga and Wellness site. And so you can do that. You will be able to see it either way, so you can have access to that. And also, if there are places where you will love for me to expand, I will love to do that. I will, the part of self-compassion is a huge component. There's a lot of research that has been done on that, a lot of practical things, or any part of what I talk and that you want me to expand, I will be happy to. You can send me an email, you can contact me, and we figure out another time where we can just share some information.
Another way you can relive it is if we have Zorayda back. So if you're interested. We have another question. And a yes, okay, emphatically. Do you have a recommendation for a specific meditation program?
So this is the sort of like my $1 million advice. The meditation practice or program that I recommend is the one that you will do. So meaning that if that practice that you want to commit to is 5 minutes or 2 minutes a day where you're focusing on your breathing, that is. If you want to use an app, and an app is going to help you to incorporate that meditation practice, then do that. If you like to go more towards the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, there is a whole 8-week program where you engage 2 hours per week in this program for 8 weeks. And so there are many avenues to that. It will be what realistically you want to engage in. but working on focusing on your breath for 5 minutes a day, if you do that, you will see the results. So I hope that answers your question.
Is there a website where we can find different meditation options?
Yes. So I think one of the important things is maybe to find reputable sources. That is, lots of meditations, like if you think about the people that I talk about, like Dr. Rick Hansen, and you can Google him. He has several meditations on his website. Most of these people who have done heavy research has a lot of free meditations that are very well researched. If you look into the iRest Yoga Nidra website, which I think you can Google iRest Yoga Nidra, you can find that. And maybe if people feel very inclined, we can put in the description of the video some of these people that I talk about it and their websites, and then you can go and begin to explore. These are very well researched meditations.
I can also email everyone after the fact with Zorayda's contact information, as well as the names and websites of the many great researchers she's talked about. Where would I find information on the 8-week class? Can they just send you an email?
Yes, you can send me an email. About all these questions, you can send me an email. I can direct you exactly to the site where you can, look into the 8-week program or any of the things that I talked. You can say, can you clarify about this? Can you tell me the name of the person that was doing X or Y? And then I will be happy to do that. I love to share information. There is so much good information out there, and magnificent practices that will enhance your daily living.